G'day listeners and welcome to another episode of the Scouting Australia podcast, powered by Australian Property Scout Buyers Agency. I'm your host, Sammy Gordon, and today, guys, we've got an exciting episode. This is a little bit different. We're probably not going to go too crazy within it as we would normally do because this is going to be a staple app for something in particular. Now, those of you guys who follow us on the socials, obviously follow the podcast and whatnot as well, you probably know that something has been coming, something very, very big for all the clients. Some of the clients have been trying to catch me the last couple of weeks. I've been flat out with a few different things going on. I've been on the road scouting deals, and I've also been in preparation for something big coming. So in essence of that, and in light of that, we have brought in the little chicken wings, big guns, we call himself, Mr. Jimmy Ibrahim, mate. Welcome back.
G'day, Sammy. G'day, listeners. And you're not wrong, Sammy, because a lot of people have been saying, what is this surprise?
What's coming?
Is Sammy coming out?
Jimmy has already come out.
Is there something?
Is Sammy
There's nothing
joining
wrong with
you?
that, Sammy. There's nothing wrong with that.
It's all good, mate. It's all good.
However, a lot of people have been asking, what is the surprise? And it's good. I'm on the edge of my seat too. We're all waiting. What's happening? Caleb, the producer, didn't even know what's going on.
We
brought in extra security just in case.
There's something big. Something huge.
We don't know.
Look, guys, what it is, we've been working it for a long time, and a lot of people were guessing different things, that they thought it might have been.
What did they guess? Just out of
the big one that was coming, everyone thought it was commercial.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that's coming, guys,
Okay.
but it's not yet. It's more of an in-house sort of thing that's happening at the moment. But look, guys, this is the big reveal of what's coming out. We have released essentially an education online learning platform called Sammy Gordon's School of Property. And this has been cooking up for a very, very long time. If anything, I would probably say this has almost been cooking up for a few years. There's been a lot of things I've kind of been taking notes on and really building this big, almost like this big arsenal of videos that I'd like to do. And we've actually done a few podcasts, Jimmy, you and I, that we actually stored in the bank, put it in the vault because there was a bit too much of kind of insider secrets and APS intel within those podcasts that were like, we can't actually bloody put this thing out. There's too much in it. And so, yeah, essentially we've crafted this course, guys. Essentially, I've pulled all the knowledge, all the information. I've been compiling this thing for about 6 months worth of kind of content within my head of putting it all down, and then smashed it out over the last few months in terms of actual content and kind of getting it all on film and whatnot as well. So there's been a huge amount of lead up to this thing. I'm very excited. It's something I've wanted to do for a long time. Just kind of put all my knowledge out there that I've spent. One of the big things, guys, is like I've spent so much money, time, effort, energy, researching as many different strategies as I can over the years to really come up with what I think works very, very well. And I've just been hammering this thing out again and again and refining it, getting better and better at strategy, deal types, everything, all the different concepts that we employ and that we really put to work both in our own portfolios and for clients. And so, yeah, mate, essentially that's where School of Property was born.
I love it. I love it. If you thought the KFC herbs and spices recipe was good, wait till you see the School of Property. And I suppose breaking it down for our listeners today. And I do, the one thing I do, there's not much I appreciate about you, but
there's not much you do. You say, you know what I do? There's not much you do.
The one thing that I do appreciate when we do talk property is the amount of different strategies you actually have done.
Yeah.
Like actually executed. Because you can talk about it, there's theory about it.
Yeah.
But putting them into practice, and when we went through all your portfolio, which, when we were going through all your deals, there was just so many different things that you tried and put your hand at.
Yeah.
And so it is obviously a logical step.
Yeah.
And when you can put it down and you can document it, because some people love the detail, don't they? They want to know the little ingredients that go into it and breaking down all the modules and all that. So it's a logical step. I mean, I think it's great.
One of the crazy things is like the amount of people that write in and they go for the Q&As and they go, we want to know about like the creative lending and the advanced structuring and like, what did you do with trusts and all the rest of stuff? And how did you make all this stuff work? I speak to different brokers, I speak to different accountants, and 99% of them don't know it. Probably a higher percentage of that don't know it, don't understand it, don't know how to use it. And man, all the things I've learned over all these years and all the different concepts and strategies and everything, mate, the amount of times I'll strategize with a client and I'll be walking them through and talking them through all these different things and breaking all these different things down. And they're just like, holy hell, like this, there's so much stuff that just blows their mind in terms of how to go to the next level. And I think what happened for me was like, I heard about a lot of people kind of bringing out courses over there. There's not that many out, right? But there's a few, right?
There is a different. You can
from a property perspective,
Exactly.
there's a fair few. But like what I did was like I was looking at who was out there and who had done it, and the big thing was like all the big course providers. Most of them had never done it, or they built the same as a lot of buyers agents. They build the portfolio after they've done the business, after they've started the business, or after they've sold the hype around it all and all the rest of it. And there was no one that I could see that had literally built it before they had a very, very high returning business or whatever. They just sold the dream around all of it, but it was all theory. They hadn't done it until after the fact. And it just, to be dead honest, I didn't respect any of them for what they've done. And really I wanted to build it from like literally the Aussie battlers side of things of building it from an average Australian income. And a lot of people might say, well, you're not on an Aussie battler's wage anymore or income. And that's fair enough. But my first 20 properties I was. And that was at the point that I won Australian Investor of the Year.
That was before the buyer's agency, wasn't it?
Yeah,
really?
yeah. Well, I won it in that year, but in that first year of business, like I'd started the business in 2019. But I didn't actually gain any traction or make any income from it really until like right at the end of 2019, kind of going into 2020. I really didn't make anything from it, and I won it in Jan 2020. So it literally, it didn't help my income at all because it was it was a sole trader. Like that's how small it was in that first year. And I won it very late 2019, and it was awarded in 2020. So no help from a big business or anything like that. During that phase and what built and helped me get to the portfolio that essentially afforded me to win Investor of the Year. And essentially, man, like I've only gotten a lot better and a lot more refined and helped a lot of clients build portfolios a lot faster than how quickly I built mine. So it's only getting better and better and more refined. And hence why I just thought, it's the time to finally do it. I've had a book on the back burner for a couple of years, and then we obviously did the poddy, and then this has just been that natural progression. And the way I look at it, because everyone's like, "Oh, is it just going to be like a $50 thing or whatever?" And it's just like that's a book, right? And realistically, like, what's the entry level thing? I'm not going to be trying to upsell people into some $20,000 mentoring program or something like that. I'm literally trying to put pretty much almost everything that I know, or just about everything that I know, on the table for it to be learnt. And the podcast, man, essentially is our low ticket item, which, as you guys know, doesn't cost anything. But that's like me putting out there what I think a lot of people should know and trying to bring some great awareness around property and telling different people's stories and breaking down different strategies and whatnot. But this essentially is like the secrets I've always, stopped the guys from telling and all the different things, or not gone too deep into how I've built a lot of different things. That's what's pretty much in the nuts and bolts. And it's not just that. It's a 70 plus video bloody at this point. I'm going to keep adding to it. It's a 70 plus video, averaging, there's a fundamental section there, all kind of, around 10 minutes, but a lot of them are kind of 20 to 40 minutes. My producer nearly killed me when we started punching through it. It doubled. The length's doubled, and also the bloody, the amount of them doubled, because there's so many things spawned from it. I got all these ideas and all these things to put into it. Mate, so much good stuff. So I haven't even properly talked to you about it.
No.
You've been away a little bit here and there. I've sent you a few videos going, mate, what do you think of this thing or that thing? And you go, mate, what, this is mad. What's this stuff?
I have been very impressed with the amount of content that you've produced and put in there. I do feel sorry for some of the people looking at the course, because they get a side angle from the podcast, but now your scone is going to take up the whole screen. So
the bod's in it as well. I'm doing it in budgies, bro. Just budgies, yeah.
Just budgies.
I got fake tan.
It might
for
turn
it.
off a few people.
That's a lie. I've never used fake tan, unlike you.
But what I was actually, we're going to talk so much about the course and the different aspects of it, but you went over something very quickly earlier on, and I just want to bring that point back up.
Please, Jimmy, please.
About why someone like you has the credibility to put something like this out.
Yeah.
And this is a little bit of a nugget for people listening, whether you use Australian Property Scout or not, or you're speaking to other buyers agents, or whatever it is your situation. But you said something really important, and we've talked about this on the podcast. You said you had already purchased 20 properties in your own already before you started the business. So a real key question to ask anyone you're working with is, it's all good and well, you've created this portfolio now that you got all this money and you've done a successful business, but what did you do before you started the business? And just be silent and let them talk.
Yeah.
Because that's a really important point.
100%.
If you can graft it out, what you did, earning 35 grand and 70 grand and building a portfolio and applying strategies, that's when you really test your strategy.
100%.
When you don't have because money masks over bad investments.
Yes.
You can just cash roll things and it can be negatively geared. So I want the listeners to not just glaze over that and to really think about that when you are making your decision. If you are going to follow the course and you're going to dive deep, great. But if you're going to use a buyer's agent, make sure you think about that, where you're getting the info.
Even the other course providers as well, like the way I like to look at it, like realistically, is what did they do before they built? Because and the reason why I say that, and it's both from the buyer's agency side and obviously from the course side as well. It's like
100%.
Man, they have to be able to relate. Like it's all well and good to go through theory. I literally I built this thing on an average Australian income. So if you build it and arguably for the half of it on well below an average Australian income, right? So then if you kind of you extrapolate that and you go, all right, sweet. Well, that makes sense. What about, these other courses or these other BAs? Like, what did they actually do before they became it? And if it's very, very little, they have never gone through what you're going to have to go through in your portfolio. If you are an average Australian income earner, and you're going through this stuff as well, they have never gone through that in their own portfolio. And then, in other words, they'll almost never be able to help guide you the exact way through it because they have never been through it. They don't. They won't understand it from that side. Whereas when you actually had to it's like a pinball machine, but smacking everything on the way through to learn how to do it on the way in. That's where the learning comes. That's where the growth comes from, and really, that's where the resilience and the bulletproof, mindset and strategies come from as well. The more you do it.
So, a lot of people listening to this, their questions are flying out, and they're like, some of them are thinking, let's get into the details, which we're going to cover. But just some of the clients who are part of Australian Property Scout are thinking, all right, Sammy. First of all, is this suitable for someone who uses Australian Property Scout? And secondly, how does this differ from what Australian Property Scout does?
Yes,
and the buyer's agent offering.
100%. So it is very different from obviously the buyer's agency operate. Essentially what we do from that operation as well, right? Essentially, what happens when a client comes into Australian Property Scout? There's all different levels of strategy. Okay, so when they come in and they've got nothing, it's a very low-level strategy so they can understand and not be overwhelmed by how big it can get. And then gradually, as we help them through, we then help keep strategizing the next step, each deal, keep moving it forward so they keep moving forward. They mitigate getting stuck as much as possible. If they have gotten stuck or they got stuck before or even during or whatever, been a lot of interest rate increases, we'll work with them in how to get around that and keep moving forward. And then you get people that come in or people that have been working with us for a while and they get to 3-4 properties in, we teach them how to get to the next level. And then all the people that start coming in at like 6, 8, 10 properties in that I do a lot of strategies with and everything, I'm then taking them to however far they want to go down. And what I realized is just there's so many layers of strategy that people need to go through to really understand and learn everything about this. Now they can do it in a journey, right? And they will do it in a journey. And for the Australian Property Scout clients that, they're thinking about this as well, the one thing I would weigh in on this is it's something to toss up. Do you want to learn everything on the upfront so you have that knowledge and you have that education and it's all starting to click? Because so often I'll do this stuff. Every time I do a strategy, it's another light bulb moment every single time for a lot of these clients as we go through because they're new concept that they've never heard of before. But essentially doing the course, it's going to grow that knowledge base, and right, like the experiences that I've had, you're going to start to understand them as well and know why we're doing certain things. And really, man, it's just a knowledge builder, right? It's almost like we talk about the bread and butters and the foundationals. What are they there for? They're to build the foundations of your portfolio. This essentially builds the mindset, and the podcast does this to an extent, but there's so much of the podcast that for me is scratching the surface of the greater knowledge that I have. And I always hold back and sometimes we have to trim some things out because it's APS IP. This is essentially laying almost everything on the table with all this stuff as well. And then breaking it down and getting you clear around building your strategy and what do you want in the portfolio? This is what you need to get there. And then these are the steps to get there as well. And so, man, really kind of breaking that down, it is very different because it's almost like a strategy session on steroids, right? Of being able to learning everything at once. Yeah. And it might take someone a while to fully get through this whole thing or fully comprehend or understand it all. But the idea is it took me probably realistically 7 or 8 years minimum to formulate my strategy properly, probably almost 10 years to fully understand this thing, right? like fully understand what I'm doing. I'm 14 years in now. I'm extremely good at what I do now. But like it took me about 10 years to learn it, right? Think of cutting that 10-year learning curve that you have to go through doing this by yourself and just winging this thing and listening to poddies and trying to glean a bit of info from here and there and everywhere. Think about cutting that down to maybe like a 3 or 6 months or however quick someone might smash this out in a month or a week, who knows? But like cutting that learning curve all the way down to that so you understand it implicitly like very, very early. And a lot of people have like different ideals around what they want to build in their portfolios or what they want to get out of it. Some people over the top, some people undershooting as well. This essentially is going to give you the framework to be able to actually build this thing out and visualize and actually craft this thing out from that perspective. But that's just the strategy module. Then there's like building your strategy module. Then there's everything else that kind of goes with it as well. So like, yes, it can seem a little bit like, Australian Property Scout clients might be a little bit like, do I need to do it? And realistically, no, you probably don't need to do it. You don't need to do it, but do you want to gain all the understanding around all this stuff so you fully understand it when we're doing it? Because a lot of people, they learn through the actual process of doing it and everything. But imagine like learning all of that before you even get there so you understand it and you come to us and you go, yes, I understand why we're doing that. Oh, yes, we're going to do this to do that. You're going to actually understand that piece. And then they're coming to us for the execution that 99% of people can't do. And I would argue 99 almost infinite 9% out of 100 wouldn't be able to execute on the same level that we do at. So they're still coming to us for execution, but the actual education piece and the learning piece of what they're going to pick up doing this is what's going to be the game changer.
So just to hit that on the head, if you're an Australian Property Scout client, this can upskill you, give you more tools, and
We'll fast track your knowledge.
And
man.
also it gets you to ask better questions.
And it will get you to think bigger. So a lot of people get freaked out by the idea of any more than maybe, one property a year or something like that. But imagine where like your psyche and your mentality is realizing that you can do, 2, 3 properties of what you have, maybe 4 properties in a year, and changing your thinking because you understand it implicitly what you can do.
Yeah.
So that's the idea of it, man. It's like changing that thinking to something you've never thought of before. People always like, I've had so many people reach out to me. They go, mate, could I just, I'll pay for an hour session with you. I'd just love to like pick your brain around these different things and all the rest of it. I don't have the time for it. I always turn people like, and they offer to pay me like decent money to do it. And I'm just like, man, like my time's for my business and my team. Like that's pretty much where it goes and that's it. And so I don't do them. And man, like the amount of knowledge that can be gleaned out of this. And that's the idea of this. This was a huge brain dump. And then I produced heaps of stuff. And then it was a brain dump again on top of it because so much came back out as well. Okay. And really it's just, man, it's even if, and I would obviously strongly recommend because I've seen what we do compared to even what I thought I was a great investor before I started the buyer's agency and before I started seeing the deals come through. But realistically, especially in the current market we're in, we had the poddy about the super boom and how crazy the market's going to be the next 3 to 5 years. You're never going to be able to execute on the same level. But if you understand implicitly exactly what we're trying to do and understand all the strategies around it, you're going to be so many steps ahead within your psyche and being able to help keep moving forward. We'll obviously continually help moving you forward. But if you understand it from that education piece and, instead of it taking 10 years to learn how to do it, you're learning it in 3, 6 months, 1 month, whatever it takes you to get through the course. Yeah, man, there's nothing beats the education piece, right? And this thing's just going to be, it's going to be continually added to. Okay. It's not like I'm going to, it's recorded this thing, I've uploaded this thing and it's done. There's going to be a lot of additional things. And as markets change, different things will be released. There's going to be a lot of things in there, man.
And can people, after doing this course and going through all the modules, are they in a position to go out and buy a property on their own?
In my opinion, man, no. Actually, I won't even say in my opinion, no. This course isn't about how to buy like APS. It isn't, I don't give away my secrets in terms of how to execute on deals.
Okay.
Essentially what this is understanding implicitly how to build a large portfolio, what you need to be doing in your portfolio, all that sort of stuff.
How to structure it.
Exactly. Everything.
Okay.
Man, majority, like it's a ridiculous percentage of people have no idea how to do any of that side of things, but it's also the different strategies. So the people who because man, like, and I love all our listeners that are out there that don't use us as a buyer's agency service. That's sweet, man. Like it's all good. If people want to go out there and have a crack, I have no issues with that. I'm not, in my opinion, it's not arrogant at all to say that we do a better job than them. We do it every day of the year. We literally, like, I train these guys to perform like me and to buy like me. So we'll outperform anyone else out there that's a private investor. Like, I don't care what anyone says. I know that we will. But man, like those side of things aren't there. But essentially what this is going to do, because that's what a lot of people reach out to me and say, mate, I'm happy to pay you whatever you want for an hour of your time. I would love you to review my portfolio and help me strategize it forward. I'm trying to do it myself and everything. And I have no issues with that. And this is essentially for those people. So then they can also learn how to, it's not only for them, because I think a lot of APS, a huge amount of APS clients, if not all APS clients, would benefit from doing this course as well. And the amount of information and understanding they'll get off the back of it. But you guys that are out there having a crack trying to do it yourselves, all good. It's going to take you 10 years to learn what I know, doing it yourself. Think of the pinball machine, smacking things on the way through, making mistakes, all the rest of it, not structuring things correctly, not understanding strategies, not knowing the different things to sort of look for as well. That is what is within this as well. So, this isn't a how to become an expert property buyer. This is how to actually know how to build your portfolio and build this thing to the moon. Because realistically, one of the biggest things I always say, there's a lot of other people out there, these experts out there, they like to talk about, 20, 30 years to retire, all this garbage. It's absolute nonsense. Essentially, if you do this thing and you understand it properly, you will learn, you will understand how to retire yourself in 10 years. From a strategy perspective, the execution piece then is the only thing that's missing.
I love that. And that's what people want. I mean, I don't know anyone who wants to wait 30 years to retire. And, we were talking about strategies, and I heard you talking about it before, and I felt my blood boil a little bit because...
Whereabouts?
Because when there's some people out there that will give you a 30-year plan, send you on your way and go, there you go, you're all set.
Terrible.
And it infuriates me because, this industry is littered with people that are trying to fleece people of their money. Yeah. So if you're not reviewing your strategy constantly, like a 30-year strategy is it's just so silly.
Terrible.
You should be doing this all the time because your situation changes.
100%. So we review every client strategy after purchase and then minimum like twice a year, right? If they're continually working with us, minimum twice a year, normally as they're coming back through for purchases, and post-purchase we'll review it. And because, things always change. Who knows where the equity position gets to, the cash flow gets to, where the serviceability ceiling comes in, all these things. You can't generate a 30-year plan, even a 10-year plan, man. You can't do it. It literally is. It is. You should be looking at things like 6 to 12 months at a time, maybe probably out to 36 months as an absolute max of forecasting. But things always change within it. Like
your income, your expenses, your lifestyle,
exactly. Potential dependence and whatnot as 100%. Well. Mate, so much changes in that time frame for that to actually be a viable thing. I think it's absolute garbage.
Yeah. I just thought I'd throw that in because it just was playing on my mind and it just got me annoyed. But let's dive into the School of Property.
All right, mate.
I want to know the different, the course. Give me a bit of a course outline. First of all, School of Property.
Yes.
How did you come up with the name?
Man, the name took me like a year. I was going through everything. Man, there was all these different names I came up with. Do I just call it APS Education? Or do I call it, I don't know, the Scouting Australia course? All these different things I was like trying to think of. Just like, what do I call this thing? And then in the end, man, I kind of just came different institutes and all these sort of things. I honestly don't know, mate. I was spitballing about probably 300 different things before I finally kind of came down to a few different ones. And realistically, it was between APS Education and School of Property in the end.
I like it. Man. I like it. It's very catchy. Very catchy. All right, let's go into it, Sammy, because people are sitting on the edge of their seats. I want you to go through the course module for me. Okay. So I've got a bit of a rough list that you've sent me. The first thing is obviously we're starting with the fundamentals.
Yeah, man. Right? So fundamentals to me is like it's the foundations, right? So like we start building a portfolio with bread and butters. You got to build the foundations properly to be able to build a portfolio correctly. This essentially is the fundamentals of building an investment portfolio and understanding everything from all bases, right? So this probably is a little bit more of a beginner's part in there. But even if there was anyone that was especially intermediate or even advanced, I'd be having a flick through there to see, what is potentially, what have I never heard of before? What are these different things I could look through? Man, they are super pungent punchy. Like if everyone thinks back to my old Wise Wednesdays days, where I do, maybe a 2 to 5 minute clip on something, or 2-3 minute clip on something, and give you a bit of a Wise Wednesday.
Bring it back, the audience is saying. Bring it back.
Well, mate, this is pretty much like that, but just a little bit bigger, a little bit more, a little bit deeper, a little bit more info as well. These kind of range between about 5 to 15 minutes each.
Okay.
And they're really just the absolute basic fundamentals of understanding property investing, building a portfolio, all these different things, pretty much everything within that. So it's there's a lot in there, man. I think at the moment we're up to about 25 videos in there, and I'm still adding things to it too. So
just in the fundamentals.
Just in the fundamentals. Man, this is the thing. This isn't just like, there's courses out there with 20, 30 videos and all the rest of it, mate, and it's just like, not that great. Just the fundamentals is like, it's 25 plus right now.
I love that. I love that for the pure reason that, and if you're listening and you're thinking, fundamentals, I'll skip over that. Do not do that, because this is the biggest mistake people make. Everyone, we've said it on the podcast before, the water cooler chats are at the Barbie when you're talking about property. Everyone's talking about the where and locations. The fundamentals is exactly what you need to focus on. The what. What do you need is all you should be focusing on, especially when you're starting.
Yeah, and I think a huge part of it as well is it's like, you got to look at this. I tried to build this course in the way of like, if I was coming through with an almost 0% knowledge base in terms of property investing, kind of around your level, what you're at 1% out of 100.
Thank
right?
you. At least I'm on the board, folks.
You're on the one only because we're chatting in this, right? But in this, I thought, how do I structure this thing? I want to structure this thing. If I was coming in from your level, going all the way through, how do I build that knowledge base so that I can actually understand it? Like, because at the start I got all excited. I was like, I'm going to put all my best stuff at the start. And it's too much for most people, right? Like even people who are potentially people who are a bit more of the advanced side, that style of things might have worked for them. But for the vast majority of people that are coming in, they're trying to learn from the absolute basics, absolute beginnings. If you guys love the podcast, if you used to love the old Wise Wednesdays, listen to the fundamentals, because there's gold in there that just could even be in a topic that you think, you already know about that. But then you listen through it and you're like, I didn't know that one piece, right? And so what you're always trying to glean is that little bit of gold from anything and everything. So with this thing, like my strong recommendation is actually everything that's within this, in my opinion, is super relevant to anyone building a portfolio. So like that's actually the whole course. So yeah, man, fundamentals to set the framework and to build this thing out.
So the fundamentals, we're kicking off, getting our base done. The next criteria or the agenda, the Trident Formula.
Yes.
Now, have you been holding this? Because it's gone missing. No one's. What are we talking about? The Trident Formula.
I believe it went with you on a certain trip to Mordor with the boys, Frodo and.
I like that you brought it back. The Trident.
The reason I brought the Trident back into it is most people know that I'm a massive believer in your bread and butters and your cash flow deals, but there's something else that's in there that is different. That, in my opinion, is needed in the portfolio. Is it the right time to do it right now? Or is it the right market conditions and everything to be doing it as well? Potentially not. So like the Trident Formula is essentially the way that I build portfolios, the way that I like to look at portfolios, the way that I've built my own portfolio, and building it out with different things within it and knowing how to, properly go through those deals. And so we've done a few different videos around sort of different things that are in the Trident Formula. This is literally hitting it home exactly how I would detail this, or I've probably described to you as a mate, just doing this as like pure free flow, like giving you everything I know about this sort of stuff. That's essentially within the Trident Formula. So it's man.
So what is it? We're talking growth, bread and butters.
Yep.
We're talking manufactured cash flow.
Yep.
And then people are thinking, well, Sammy, what's your third? What's the third secret spice?
Yes.
Are we can you surely mention it. We're going to go into detail on the course. I can hear the chants. Do it.
Super boom, super boom, super boom. Chant with me. Super boom, super boom, super boom.
How's the bass?
So that was very good, very good, very deep. Lukey wishes he was here right now. Sorry, buddy. Big shout out to you, Lukey.
Shout out, Lukey.
I love you, mate. So the third prong in the Trident is DRDs. Debt reduction deals. I'm going to leave it at that.
Ooh.
You want the rest of it, guys, you got to tune in. But DRDs.
There you go. Okay, so we've got the Trident Formula.
Yes.
We're building up here. Number 3, essentially, is your specific strategy and building your own strategy, which we've discussed, right?
Yes.
Understanding where you're at, what you need to do to get started.
This is a deep section, guys. So this was a lot longer than I thought it was going to be. I started at 1. 1 to 6, I think it was.
Videos.
Yeah. And then I kept realizing there was actually a couple of things before 1. So I put in a 0 and then I was like, oh, there's actually something after that. There's a 0.5. And then it kept stretching out a bit. So in essence, in terms of like there's steps before the number 1 that I originally started with. And so, yeah, I think in the end there's 10. I think there's 10 steps in total to the building your strategy segment. They're all about 25 to 40 minutes each. So there is some absolute gold in there in terms of literally building out. This is what you're chasing. 50, 100, 200, $500,000. This is how we build out the strategy, and this is how we stick to the strategy as well. So, man, that was a segment that I was actually, it grew a lot bigger than I thought it was going to grow, but there was a huge amount of value from it. A few of the guys in the team that are helping me with the course, they watched it back as well, and they said, wow, like that, both those sections, the Trident Formula and building your strategy, a few of the guys actually said just the Trident Formula section alone, those 3 videos, in their opinion, was worth the course fee, just those 3 videos.
I don't know if my phone wasn't working, but I didn't get a call for one of those people.
Yeah, it was close people in APS, valued members.
All right, so you heard that. Didn't get a call up. No worries. Moving on. Number 4 here, and this is the forgotten piece of property, which a lot of people really don't understand, and it's all about finance.
Yes.
The Finance Masterclass. I like the sound of that. I like, because it is true, right? People, the biggest thing that stops people is all about the money.
It's the biggest thing people come and ask me for advice and for mentoring on is financing and structuring. And financing is the biggest piece. So one of the oldest sayings in the book in property is success in property investment is 50% property and 50% what you do with property and 50% finance. If you can't get finance or you don't understand how to get it properly, you are not going to build a significant portfolio. So, man, understanding that and breaking that down. Again, that was supposed to be 2 videos in that thing. I think that thing's blown out to about 8 videos now. And yeah, man, or 6 or 8 videos or whatever it is now. There is a lot of content within that and a lot of like really good, juicy, how do we build this? How do we build this thing out? How does all this work? How does structuring work? How does lending and structuring work? All that sort of stuff. That is essentially all broken down and built out in the Finance Masterclass.
Great. So, and this is going to equip people with the ability to ask better questions of their broker, to know exactly what kind of finance and obviously to create a better outcome for you. Yes.
So, man, and coming early next year is going to be the next phase of my portfolio, right? When I went from 12 properties to 20. Okay. So, a lot of that came down to learning.
The podcast.
The podcast, right? The next podcast, Sammy's portfolio, 12 to 20 will be coming out early next year. And essentially, man, like the full breakdown of that, obviously I couldn't do, in that podcast. It's too much kind of IP, right? But essentially, man, like how I built that was like, people have tried to call bullshit on me in the past being like, oh mate, you can't build like that size portfolio on that income. You 100% can. You just have to know how to do it. It all comes down to knowing how to work finance. And yeah, man, pretty much it's all broken down in that. So I love that. I actually love that segment. I love the whole thing, man. It's cool, but that Finance Masterclass is so much good in there that most people will never know in their lifetime. They don't understand how to do it. And yeah, man, all the goodies are in that.
Well, in saying that, if ever anyone's listened to the previous episode of your portfolio, that was properties
6 to 11.
There we go. Which is an incredible podcast. If you haven't listened to that one, because there are some absolute gems. And speaking of finance, you actually were tapped out.
Yes.
And your broker led you down to actually, that advice that she gave you is what freed you up to continue to accumulate.
Yes.
So don't underestimate how important that is. There's some gems in that podcast. Listen to that, folks.
Yeah. So yeah, man, I have a broker on there as well, very experienced broker on there joining me, and she's sharing a lot of secrets that we're working on with this as well. So things that I've never disclosed before, never talk about openly. I kind of mention here and there different things, in the past, even in that poddy, I mentioned, some offhanded things, but there's no real structure around how I did it. And essentially, yeah, man, this is breaking down how I did it from a financing piece in terms of building the portfolio.
So that's segment 4. And moving beyond that,
yes,
finance and brokerage is an important aspect, but obviously accounting
is
a critical component. So in number 5, the structuring and advanced accounting.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's again. So I did that. That's obviously again. Once again, that's my personal accountant. While within that video, that we've got some literally.
How good?
I think 2 hour session or something with him. We just hashed out everything within this.
Wow.
So you literally get access to my personal accountant and kind of going through all the different things around accounting, structuring, and everything to do with it as well to really maximize everything. So. It was funny because I actually only recorded this with him a couple of days ago when I did that session with him. And it was funny. We went through and we were talking about this stuff and we're like, and I just said to him in the middle of the thing, I was like, man, you get any of this thing wrong, right? Like, it's like a few $100,000 per property that you could potentially stuff up here. Or sometimes it's only 20 grand, 10, 20 grand you could potentially stuff up. But there were some equations that we were running through where people could have stuffed up, 200 grand, 500 grand sort of thing from incorrect structuring. And it just plays such a huge part. And the biggest thing I see is like people think they're with a property specific accountant, but there is a minute number of absolute expert property accountants out there. And when we get him on the, in that session, the amount of stuff that we go through is literally, man, it's if you've never listened to an actual property specific or a property expert accountant, that stuff will blow your mind.
Wow. Those two segments, finance and accounting, and listening to those experts, from my just initial thoughts is that would be worth whatever course you paid, because the amount of money you would save and generate from just knowing those intricacies.
And that's why you look at these different things. Like literally one of the guys said to me, literally just a Trident Formula. I see the fee just in the Trident Formula, what he learned. And he's been working with me, for a long time, even as a client and then internally within the business for about 3-4 years now. And the amount that he learned out of that was like, man, like I would 100% pay that fee just for that amount. And then obviously, the finance and the advanced accounting and everything as well is, if anything, I think there's more value in those two modules than there is in the Trident. Okay. So man, there's some crazy stuff in that. So
all right, before we move on, so what I can gather is you've spoken to the team.
Yep.
You've had your broker.
Yes.
An accountant.
Yes.
Still no invite for me. That's all good. Let's keep moving.
Would you like me to reiterate the important people coming on?
Let's keep moving. This next topic, you've kept this close to your chest.
Yes.
There's not very often
I don't talk about this.
The super boom hero talks about the self-managed super fund.
Yes. So if people think that the value is just in the Trident Formula or the value is just in the Finance Masterclass or the Advanced Accounting and Structuring modules, what you will learn in the SMSF, and I don't say this lightly because, like I said, the other people would kind of say this about the other. Well, you said that about those two, and old mate said that about the Trident Formula. What there is in the SMSF, so Lukey is an SMSF expert, right? Like that is his background. That's where he comes from.
Go on, Lukey.
I didn't do this session with Lukey. I did this with a strategy that I formulated. I woke up in the middle of the night one night many years ago, and I came up with this thing. And I called the accountant that did that structuring that structuring segment with me. And I called him, and I was blowing his phone up when I was 5 o'clock in the morning or something. When I got up, I thought this is a reasonable time to call him. He's like, "What's up, man? Like, what's going on?" I go, "Right, I got a strategy. I need to run through." He goes, "Can we do it later?" I said, "No, I've been waiting until a respectable hour at 5 a.m. to call you because I was thinking about this at like 2 a.m." And he's like, all right, hit me with it. Give me a second. Hit me with it. And then I explained it all to him over about half an hour and ran this thing through with him. And I sent him screenshots because I'd written all this stuff out on the whiteboard. And he goes, "Man, how'd you think of this stuff?" And I said, "I didn't sleep. I was just been thinking about this thing for like 3 hours. It's like it all came to me and I was writing it all out." And he goes, "Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good." And then we ran through it more and more in detail. He's like, "Yeah, this is insane. I've never seen anything like this before."
Wow.
If I was to put one thing on this whole course that literally this one thing alone, Lukey actually said to me, people used to pay the company that he used to work for 10 grand for advice around SMSFs that was nowhere near as in-depth and as advanced as that. And essentially, guys, like to give this a bit of a breakdown. Now, the first thing as well, as you all know, this is not financial advice. Nothing that we talk about here, everything we talk about is general in nature. There's disclaimers and whatnot all over the SMSF stuff, right? Because it is a very litigious thing. And I always recommend, and we always recommend as an organization to always speak to your financial planner around this sort of stuff. You have to be careful. You have to be aware of what you're doing. SMSF is obviously that long-term nest egg. Essentially what it is, though, it's breaking down how I'm building my SMSF and how I'm building my portfolio within there. And it is a different beast. And when you understand what you can do with that as it's different, as the different beast that it is, when you understand that, you will understand why that segment, in my opinion, is probably worth 10 times that fee. With what you can do over over your life with SMSF. So if there was one segment that I'm excited about, and if anything I'm extremely proud of, it's essentially the strategy that I built around that and what you can do with it as well. So like I said, guys, anything that's within that, obviously you got to check it all with the financial advisor. But if there's
a disclaimer on that disclaimer,
is that let's disclaim everything.
Often your financial advisor, if you're asking the wrong financial advisor about advice around that, just be mindful of that, because they can lead you up a garden path which may not necessarily help you. Yes. And that sounds quite contradictory, but if you don't have a financial advisor that's really property focused and they want to put you in some basic ETF funds or simple stocks in Australia, just look at the performance of those and really stretch it out as to what your outcome would be when you're at retirement age. And then
the biggest argument, though, always for when it comes to that sort of stuff in property is the leverage in property, 100%. Right? And so embracing that from the different vehicle that is SMSF is a game changer. But you'll see, I give financial planners a little love in terms of like, we'll leave a little bit for you guys when we start this thing off. Nice. But it's one of those things, guys. You want to, this is one of those things. I don't know if you remember, we recorded it way back in the day. We did a little bit of SMSF stuff. I actually had to go back through and kind of cut that out because it was a bit too much that I gave in there. That wasn't even the whole strategy, but it was a bit too much in there. And this is the thing. It's been percolating in my mind. We work with a lot of clients around it as well. Yeah, this is essentially the gold mine that is.
This is the biggest overlooked aspect of 100%. Everyone's portfolio. Often people have just been letting their super fund tick in the shadows. They don't pay any attention.
Lurking in the
yes, yeah. They don't take any attention to it. But what you're doing, Sammy, is putting a spotlight on it and saying, guys, this is an incredible opportunity to accelerate another vehicle so that in the back end, it can deliver a huge amount of outcome for you.
Yeah, 100%. So you think about the Trident Formula. I don't know what a Trident is with an extra prong. It's probably like a bobcat or something. I don't know what it is.
Because what would it be? Because it's so important, this self.
Quad spear.
Yeah,
quad spear. Quad spear. When you 4 spears tied together.
Okay, I'll let you get you. Okay, you
Thank
finish
you,
with this bit.
I'll throw it at you.
So when you told me a little bit about this, I was blown away. I was like, the light bulb went off for me. I went, hold on. Why doesn't everyone do this? This just makes so much sense. Crispy. He's going to coin that. The crispy. So anyway, folks, for your self-managed super fund, there's going to be, I can't wait to listen to this one. This is going to be like an absolute cracker.
You have to pay for the course for that one.
See, don't even get any of the course. Do we get a discount, Caleb, our producer? Just checking.
There is a Scouting Australia podcast discount coming. But it depends who the car holder is, because there's a block on a James Ibrahim.
Does it come with the steak knives? Because we need a good, or a kebab knife.
You got a kebab cover. I'll give you a kebab cover with your crispy.
Let's keep moving.
Yes.
So we've pretty much...
We're halfway through, mate.
Geez, Sammy.
That's what I said, man. You're seeing it just get building and building.
There's a lot. From what I'm looking at now, we're moving into the
I gave you a bit of a framework here.
Investor strategies. Just when you thought you'd covered everything, where else can you take it? Like when we're talking advanced strategies and concepts, what are we talking about?
So there's a lot of different things in here, a lot of different concepts within it. I'm probably not going to go into them, too much from that perspective, but there's a lot of different things within it. Essentially your advanced investor strategies and concepts is really just breaking down all the different things that most people don't think about. It's almost like those light bulb moments that people have. They're essentially a lot of the topics that most people would never even think about, and then you bring it back into the equation, or even understanding how to calculate the affordability of an area and how long an area might have left in the tank, all different things like that. Velocity of money in detail. All that sort of thing. The power of compounding growth and actually breaking it down to give you an idea of how that looks as well. From your ETF sort of style people and your money in the bank, offset accounts, investing, advanced investing, all that sort of thing.
Paying off your house.
Yeah, man. But let's just like overlaying everything on top of it and showing you the compounding effect of how massive that difference could be. That video in there, it actually took, I remember that was actually the only video that I think I did 3 retakes on, because I was just like, I'm gonna build it like this. I'm going to change. And I did it. I was like, I'm going to change it. It was literally the only thing that I re-recorded because of the power of that. And I wanted people to properly understand it. So I thought like the way I kind of did it initially, I went a bit too soft, and I was like, nah. Our listeners,
that's unlike you.
Yeah, mate. Well, it was a Jimmy recording. I think you sent me the notes on that one.
Oh, that was quick for you.
Thank
that
you, mate.
was very
Thank
good.
you. You're
Very
a turtle.
good.
You're
Okay.
a turtle. And yeah, man. So I kind of like built this thing out and go, no, I need to build this for like what would an APS listener or a Scouting Australia listener, what would they want to see, and kind of built this thing out from a compounding growth perspective. So that is actually a very, very exciting kind of chapter that was within it. But my favorite, it's my favorite video in that. It's my second favorite video on the course. My favorite video on the course would be the SMSF. In my opinion,
Wow.
it's just an underutilized, untapped resource in the Australian market that people don't fully understand how to utilize this thing. And it is ridiculously powerful. I would be extremely surprised if there was anyone that listened to that thing that didn't at the end of it go, yeah, shit, okay, that's crazy.
Mm. You know, it's funny.
Because it literally is, man.
But because the other day on a call, I was just mentioning the avenue of doing this, and
Just to your mum.
the caller said, "Oh, it'd be too risky to do it in your super."
Mm.
And it just was surprised, and I said, well, "Why is that?" Oh, but you're not supposed to touch. You're not supposed to touch your super fund. And just what that's been ingrained into people's psyche, I just thought this person's missing out on such an incredible opportunity.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. It's crazy. So it's just something we're obviously putting out there. Everyone's got to make their own decision around it. They've got to get the tick off for the financial advisor around it. But I'm just showing, essentially breaking down the way that I
you're doing,
built my own. Yeah, exactly. The way I built my own portfolio. But my second favorite video, if we're going to jump onto it, all right, jump over to that within this course, is how to use property to buy a Ferrari. Right. And this all spawned off Morgan from Australian Pro Scout, Morgan Holmes, my partner, her younger brother. We were looking at, I've been shopping Ferraris now for a little bit. And we were driving back from Brisbane and we were just chatting and he goes, man, like, I'd love to own one of these one day. And he was telling me about his mate, and both he and his mate are both clients. And he said his mate was sitting there, and if his mate hadn't been a client, I would have shredded him, right? But his mate said to Bales, who then passed on to me, he goes, you know, he was sitting there the other day and we're outside the gym and there's Lambo drove past. He goes, man, that'll never be us. What do you think I'm going to do?
Dude, I was going to say, talk about throwing a big, he threw a big lamb chop into the water.
Mate, the lamb was still attached. The lamb was still attached.
Jeez.
Bleeding. I love lamb.
I love lamb.
And sheep. I'm environmentalist. I still love it. I'm carnivore. Anyway. And
jeez.
Mate.
That's a risk.
And I go, and I was just straight away. I won't say exactly what I said.
But we got a few beeps.
A bit too PG.
We got a few
no,
beeps.
we're not going to play them. We're not going to play the beeps. It's all good. And I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, man, like, we just like, how are guys like us ever going to do it? I go, how much do you make a year? I won't say what he makes a year. It was more than what I used to make. When I finished working as a PAYG, it was more than that, right? And I said, mate, what are we doing right now? Driving? Yeah. Where were we just then? Oh, yeah. Looking at Ferraris. Yeah. Mate, I started with less than where you boys are right now on the incomes that you boys are right now. And then I broke it down to him. I go, you want a Ferrari? This is how you buy a Ferrari. Boom. Broke it all down to him, right? Broke it all down exactly how to do it. It is not as crazy as people think. It is a little bit crazy, right? But it's a little bit crazy if you're thinking you're going to get it in a year or 2 years. You've got to pay your dues. I've been investing now for over 14 years.
Yeah.
Been doing it for
That's a big caveat there.
Long time. It is not something you can do straight away. But if you build it into your 10-year, building your strategy, if you build this into your 10-year game plan, 10-year game plan, 100%, as long as you execute the right property, right location, at the right price, you get all that right as you're building out your strategy and as you're building out your portfolio. Those boys might own their one before I get, before I bought mine. So it's just, man, it's one of these things like.
And just on that,
yeah,
just so to give people context, a Ferrari has always been your dream car, ever since you were
a kid, as long as I can remember.
And as you've gone through your journey, and we've spoken about this a lot, it was something that you wanted to work towards. And is it fair to say, early days you thought there's no way I could do this, or did you have the confidence?
Deep down, I always knew I was going to have one. Okay. I've always known deep down I was going to do really well. Originally, I thought it was going to be from soccer. I just had this, I thought, I'll be making 15, 20 mil a year playing for Liverpool, blah, blah, blah. Like thinking I was going to be this big hot shot. Grew up, reality set in, had to find a different way to do it. But realistically, man, it is not as hard as you think to own that sort of stuff. Sorry, to buy that sort of stuff. Then you need to obviously have created the portfolio and the passive income to then be able to own it and afford to retain it. But yeah, man, I break it down in that exactly how I did it, did it with him. And he's at the end of it, he's like, oh my God, really? Like, is that really possible? I said, bro, 100%.
And the Ferrari is that's a car for you.
Yeah.
But for someone else, it can be something else. So whatever your Ferrari is.
And this is where it might be like the dream primary residence, or maybe you just want
beach house.
Yeah, man.
Holiday.
So many different things.
Whatever it is.
And so, man, the craziest thing though about this was I broke it down to him. And as soon as I got home, I dropped him home. And then I think when I dropped him home, I think I wrote all the notes into my phone. And then as I actually planned out that lesson, what I did was there was 3 ways of doing it. There was the poor man's way. There was I think it was the rich man's way or the smart man's way or something like that. And then there was the wealthy man's way. The way that I explained it to him was the middle one. And then what came to me as I planned this out and I was planning out this ep was the wealthy man's way. And essentially how to do it. So like there's 2 ways of doing it that 100% you can do it. But then it's, man, when I broke this thing down, I went through it all. I was like, I love that. I got to the end of it. I was so G'd. I was like so hyped. I was doing this.
So you think people listening out there,
yes,
if there's some young kids that are driving around in their early 20s thinking in 10 years time, they could have a Ferrari as well.
100%. No questions, man. You do this thing properly. You build this thing out, you buy the right property, right location, right prices. I always bang on about. And be real with yourself. You can't do that. Buy the education, understand the education, employ someone that can execute for you at the highest level, do what you do well to get paid well, to be able to afford to do this and keep building it. Someone buys property for you, they should realistically be making their fee or more on the way into the deal as a minimum. So it should be taking care of itself anyway. But you're in the right location, right price, right property. You tick all those boxes off and you get 100% on all of those. Mate, no questions. In my mind, no questions. Anyone can do it.
Well,
Bro, I'm living proof. My first 5 years, almost 7 years as an investor was almost a failure. I look at them these days, it makes me sick how little I did in that time frame. The amount of guys I see now in their first year buying 3 properties, 2, 3, 4 years in, they're at, literally 3 properties in the first year, 5 properties by the second year. They're building these things. It makes me sick how small I went or how small my portfolio was compared to where these guys are. Man, there's so much on the table that they can do. And when they understand all the other stuff as well, this is where, man, we can really help these guys go to the moon.
I love it. All right, let's keep moving.
Mate, we're 52 minutes in. We've still got a bit to punch through.
Let's keep moving.
Let's go.
So the next segment is all around, is that real deals I can see? Some of your specific deals.
Yeah,
some of the deals,
from the vault.
Mate.
Straight out of the vault, bro. Breaking some of mine straight out of there.
Look out. So what are we expecting there? Do we get numbers? Are you giving strategy? Yeah. Are we going through the full gamut?
It's a mix. So there's pretty much almost everything you can kind of think of within kind of breaking down deals within this space. So there's breaking down even literally bread and butters and then layering bread and butters on top of them, advanced cash flow strategies and actually showing the way we looked. I probably should have asked for your permission before I broke one of yours down. Probably should have done that. That would have made me
down
one of your deals. It's all good. I'll just leave it out.
You should have brought me in.
I know.
I'm waiting for a call up. I'm on the bench. I'm on the bench like you.
I'll just delete that video. Mate, you're in the stands.
Do I have a hot dog and a beer?
No, stands of another stadium because you weren't allowed into my one.
All right, so we go through some of your deals, and this is great because it gives some real specific examples of actual deals in the market.
You know the thing as well, like the cool thing about this is like some of these deals I started going with some pretty advanced stuff and I go, you know what? I want to show the power of just a perfectly executed bread and butter, bought at in the right place. So it runs at the right time, bought at the right money and the right property that performed in that way as well. And man, even just some of the bread and butter examples, we've got a property doing more than 100% growth in a sub 3 year window, in a just over 2 year window.
That's incredible.
And man, breaking this stuff down and going through that to me, I was like, whoa, this is actually pretty cool to see. Like, so I always talk about positioning, like time in the market versus timing the market. Like, are you kidding me? There is no comparison. And when we go through and we do that, it's sick, man. And there's a little comparison one in there as well of houses versus units, and a unit that I had bought in a very similar area to house, and how much the house had outperformed it, even though everyone, there's not everyone, but there's a few, big players out there that talk about going hard into the unit side of things. And yeah, man, kind of just breaking down all those different things. So just a lot of different layered strategies within it. The old, mate, you grabbed the Mount Gambier bargain. That deal's in there.
I love that deal.
That deal's in there. I love that deal.
I wonder what that guy's doing these days.
He'd still be down there, mate. Big Al Lemon. What a legend.
I reckon they've fenced off the lake after you.
Probably.
Because
Streak is
if you
present.
don't know what we're talking about, you got to listen to that podcast. But Sammy did a very bad thing to the locals of Mount Gambier. He's been banned. He's been banned from there.
They got a statue of me there now.
Yeah, if you see this guy, kick him out of the lake.
There's an arrow through my head. There's an axe in my heart.
Oh, that was brilliant.
Mate.
I was listening to that the other day, and
Yeah.
gee, I was laughing.
I listened to it in prep before we doing this other one. And
Oh goodness!
mate,
All
I'm
right,
with you.
so
real deals. There's some
from
great
the-
stuff in there, guys.
from the bull shark. Then we take a turn into some market research.
Yeah, so there's some different sort of strategies with this. These were the poddies actually that I did with Lukey.
Oh shit! So Lukey's in the. So Lukey's come in as well. So we've got Luke. Have you keeping a tally here, Caleb, our producer, of who has been involved in this course, except for the old wizard over here, hasn't been given a call up. It's un-Australian.
You know what's un-Australian? That haircut.
All right, go on, Lukey. I can't wait to who else. Did you get the cleaner out in the street
Bro,
sweeper?
you know how much
Did
wisdom
you get
he
the
had?
street sweeper to come in and give
You know how much wisdom he had? Do you know how much he had?
Go
More
on,
than you.
keep going.
More
Market
than you.
research. So we got
Market
Lukey in
research.
it.
Yeah,
All right.
Lukey's in it. I've
Yep.
got a few videos of my own in there. There's a few potties with Lukey within it as well.
Okay.
So some little bonus eps in there.
Nice.
So yeah, man, we kind of went through it and did a bit. We actually did this. We did this. We started one, and then I actually cut it. And I go, this is ages ago. And I go, mate, this is way too much APS intel in this thing.
Yeah, wow.
Like we're not doing this thing. And so I cut it, and we had notes for both eps, and we go, yeah, we can't do this thing. Because essentially gave away so much of the APS IP and Intel. So we scrapped that, and I said, and that was like within my list of if I ever do a course, I'll do this. And so essentially, man,
Okay.
that's what they are. And then I've got a few other videos within that as well of my own, going through a few different things from understanding the market as well, from an intricate level.
So we're nearly wrapping this up. Am I correct in
how-to.
seeing you the
The
how-to
how-to.
section?
Yeah.
So what are we talking about when you're talking?
Mate, I enjoyed doing this one. This module, right? So there's a lot of different layers within it. There's actually a few more still to come as well that I'll be plugging into this thing at a later date. But essentially, man, how-to models, right? How-to modules and lessons within this. So even in terms of building your strategy, like actually extrapolating that into how that looks from a financing perspective and structuring. That's why it's all the way down the end. So you've learned, you've built all this knowledge, and then you get to the end and you're raring to go, and you go, all right, here's these different points of like how to build.
So step-by-step sort of stuff.
Exactly. How to build. The first one is $60,000 per annum net passive, right?
If you're on $60,000.
No. How to build $60,000 per annum net passive.
Oh, okay. Yes.
The reason for this as well, different people have different goals, but a lot of people have to build their portfolio in stages. So if you want to build $250,000, $500,000, something like that, if you're an average Australian income earner, you cannot do it in one hit. You have to do it in stages. And essentially this breaks down the stages on how to build all these different points. But if you only want to build 60K per annum net passive, then that's also the perfect video for you to understand what you need to put into the portfolio. But I kind of go through a bit of a doubling. So is it how to build 60K per annum net passive, how to build 120,000 net passive, how to build 250K net passive, and there's a few other big boppers still to come.
With this, sorry, you were going to say, keep going.
Yeah, no, ask that question.
I was going to
I'll get
ask
something else
you
to throw in after.
the how-tos.
Yes.
Is this relevant for people that are in their 20s and also in their 50s or 60s? Like, does it matter what age you are when you're listening to all this sort of stuff?
No, it really doesn't, man. Because everyone, if they're starting from further in, let's say they're in their 60s, 50s, 60s, and they've got a bigger equity base, they can probably do it a little bit safer, a little bit more comfortably than someone maybe in your 20s or your 30s that maybe wants to roll the dice a bit and go hard at this thing.
Okay.
It's obviously a different sort of point. So
yeah, I
man.
don't want people to think this is, I've missed my boat. I'm already 50
for everyone,
something.
man.
Yeah,
it's for everyone.
I don't want people to think that when
if you're in your 50s,
this.
the biggest thing I could say, if you're in your 50s, I remember my parents in their, it was when I first started investing, so they must have been in their mid 50s, and they go, no, I'm not going to go and do house and grannies in Sydney. It was when they first had passed the laws, and I go, we're going to get on this thing. Like, I want to get you a few of these. We could buy houses, do the bills, have everything done and dusted for like sub 400K. Like, no, there's not enough. There's not enough now. You know what I mean? Like, it's not enough immediate passive income to be worthwhile. So they didn't do it, right? But because they didn't do it, then we're now nearly 15 years later from or maybe it was the late 50s, and now they're both give or take knife's edge around 70. Mum's a year younger, dad's a year older than the 70. And yeah, man, they pretty much didn't do anything. And then all this time's passed. They haven't done anything. So they're almost still working. They're going through the final sale of their business now.
And what would that deal be?
Oh, well over $1 million. Well over $1 million. And the rental on it, the rental on it would be it'd be close to $1,000 a week. So you're talking like 15%.
If they had done two of those deals
and paid them out, it's $100,000 a year net passive. And then like Simple Strategy are paying them out as well.
They wouldn't be working right now.
No, 100% not. And this is the thing, man. Like, you go through Simple Strategy payment. Like, if you're in your 50s and you don't have a nest egg built, you're working till your late 70s, right? Sorry, to your late 60s. Like, you're working at least another 10 years. If you're working at least another 10 years, this is 100% relevant for you. If you've got a decent nest egg already, or maybe a bit of something built up, but you want to transition that into how do I build out passive income or something like that, something that's going to keep going for time, you might be able to do this in 5 years, you know? But the important thing is, like, if you have at least 10 years up your sleeve until you're going to be retiring, this is 100%, man. You should be doing this, understanding this intimately, and then putting this into action.
Mate, I love it.
There's a couple other little things in there. I think there's a how to build a 5-property portfolio on 50K, starting with a 50K deposit. How to build a 10-property portfolio, starting with a 100K deposit on 100K income, something, I don't know, there's something like that. Mm-hmm. So kind of gives a few different layers for people, you know, your 50K income earners and your 100K income earners, just something a bit like relevant as to how you could actually build it out. Because doing the building your strategy, they're probably, you know, build a lot of things and like mentally understand how to do it and kind of build out the way they would like to do it, or what they really want to achieve out of the end of it. But then the how-to modules will actually show you, break everything down that you've learned the whole course into how do we actually apply this in terms of an actual strategy that they can enact. Then it just comes down to the execution. Okay. That once again, you should visit www.australianpropertyscout.com.au for the best sourcing team in Australia.
What about for clients that are approaching this? They're on 300 grand.
Yes.
They're on high income. They want $500,000 passive income. Does it have something for them?
The $500,000 passive income is coming. The 250K is there. I would say watch the 250K probably within the next week or two.
Okay.
I think
it's going to be added.
This thing's dropping on Monday. So yeah, it's coming. And the one after that is how to build $1 million net passive.
Ooh.
Yes.
Who wants to be a millionaire? This is the new hot seat.
Yeah. So obviously, like, this is essentially how I build out my strategy, like my next phase of strategy for the next target that I'm going for, which is $1 million per annum net passive. That probably will be released, say, early in the new year.
Wow. Okay. I love it. I love those how-tos.
Yeah, man.
So then when we're wrapping it up, you got a bit of a bonus. Is this the steak knives?
The bonus, yes. Yes.
What is in the bonus?
Steak knives.
What is the bonus? Is this, Caleb, this is the moment. I knew he was waiting to bring me in for the bonus. The words from the wizard. Is that what it is? Or dog tricks?
If you put in the code, Jimmy's a dog, you get the course for free.
Do you need an apostrophe for Jimmy's or
no? Just Jimmy is a dog.
Wow.
Spaces included. Wow. Actually, any iteration. I've got every iteration you can think of there.
As long as you have the word dog in there.
Seriously. Just to put a disclaimer on it, that is not actually a discount code. That is not applicable.
Okay. Give us the bonus because come on.
There's two bonuses. The first bonus, which is bonuses that I haven't actually told you about, is after this episode today. You and I are going to record some bonus podcasts.
Oh, see, he waited to get me up here.
We're an hour and 3
He waited to get me up here. He's given me an hour, and then now he's telling me. So what about what?
They'll come, mate. It's all good. It's all good. You don't need to know.
I like it.
I'm going to spring them on you.
What I can gather is you've held my module to the end.
Yes, so when everyone's probably tapped out.
They've tuned out.
They've fallen asleep.
They've thrown it in they've gone, this is rubbish. Refund. Where's the refund button? All right. No, I'll help you out. I'll help you out, mate. Don't worry about it. Even as a level C, what did you call me? Level 3?
Level 1 out of 100. level 1 out of infinite investor.
Okay. So the bonus podcast.
Yes, there's some bonus podcast. There's a few. We'll probably add some things over time as we go as well. There's some things that's just like advanced, like super, not so much super. It's just like their concepts, their ideals and their strategies that I don't release to the public, right? Okay. That sort of stuff. So that's essentially what we'll be going through and what we'll be continually adding as well. This isn't like I just record this once, guys, and this thing is done and dusted. There's always things I'm going to be adding in as kind of bonus content and continual things moving on as well.
And also tweaking, I'm assuming, because there's so many different, if things change in the market, you can 100%. Add different things, tweak it. Yeah, I like it. So it's a moving beast, essentially.
Yes.
Constantly being updated. All right. Well, anything else you want to? Are you going to disclose what the price is or anything like that?
No. So like the final bonus, right? That will be within this as well. If you buy the course, you will get a stuffed toy that looks like Jimmy's
a bull
head.
Shark.
Jimmy's head with the.
Can you imagine a bull shark?
That's mad. I'm going to bring that in.
You should.
I should.
Key ring, little bull shark.
100%.
Yeah.
That's good. And then there's a little wizard And it's just Jimmy's head going, yeah.
I'll take 10% of those.
Definitely
Ongoing
not.
trail.
You sign your
ongoing
waivers, mate.
trail.
You sign your
Ongoing
waivers.
trailing income.
Definitely not. So, guys, the final bonus, right? So obviously, as being Scouting Australia podcast listeners, I'm not trying to throw this thing on at stupid money. I'm also not going to sell this thing for cheap because this is literally all the content literally that I have in my mind that I've kind of put out there as well. So it's going to be in the middle. I believe the price it is extremely fair for what it is. What I am going to do as an offer, I don't know how hard this thing's going to go or if it's going to completely flop. But essentially the offer that I'm going to be extending is the first 100 downloads or up until Christmas Eve.
Okay.
Christmas Eve.
All right. So pretty much 20% the month of December.
20% discount.
20%.
20% discount on this. This is the thing. I'm not going to throw this on as stupid money and go 50% discount.
Nah.
This there's a lot of IP in here. I got a lot of I think I got a lot of respect for what I have put into this and time, effort, but also the knowledge that's within this as well. So I'm not going to be. It's not going to be. I'm going to be throwing this on guys and then and say, oh, if it's 50% discount, and then in a month when all that wraps up, I'm then going to drop it to the same price that it was supposedly 50% at. This isn't smoke and mirrors. This should be the biggest discount I ever apply for the course. I'm not going to put anything more because I know the value that's within this thing. I'm never going to drop it more than what that price is there at the time. So,
is it fair to say for you, Sammy?
Yes.
Some people will be listening to this. I've got a couple of people in my
no worries.
thoughts.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
They're thinking, oh, here he goes again, Sammy. He's going for a money grab. He's going to try and cash in on the people out there, hardworking Australians, Anon Smith and his mate John.
And Don.
What would you say to them? Because clearly,
why are you still listening to the podcast? That's the first thing. Move along. Anon, yeah, Gronk.
No, because clearly you don't want to, correct me if I'm saying, but you're not discounting this heavily and you are pricing it at a point. This is not you obviously are very successful in your own right, but there has to be a value on the content.
100%.
Clearly. So that is why it is going to be priced accordingly and there is going to be a discount, but you're not trying to farm this out and trying to get 1 billion people to listen to it.
Yeah. Man, like quite honestly, like where I think it's priced, I believe is very, very fairly priced. Just to say that as well, if either the first 100 go or we hit the 24th of December as well, that'll drop to 10% of a discount. So there'll always be a 10% discount for Scouting Australia podcast listeners. All the coders you need to put in is SAP. So Scouting Australia podcast SAP is all you need for the discount code.
Okay.
And then so you got 20% up until Chrissy Eve. From Chrissy on, it rolls over to the 10%. Realistically, man, I price this sharply at where I think there is great value and also warrants my time for having put it in and put out a lot of stuff as well. Realistically, what I know is the absolute truth is there are a lot of other buyers agents out there that listen to our content and my content and that I know will probably go out and buy this thing as well. So as long as if I can give it away for free or I can give it away for a pittance, because I know other people will go out there and try and emulate this thing as well. So, I'm pricing it in my mind what is fair to both the consumer and to myself as well. And yeah, man, realistically, like the idea of this thing is just to bring some great awareness to a lot of people out there. And yeah, man.
Can I say in terms of pricing, I don't even know what the price is, to be honest. And I'm being full disclaimer there. I don't even know what the price is.
Yeah.
But the first thing that comes into my mind whenever someone quotes you price and they say, because most people, they're geared to say it's too expensive. The question you got to ask yourself is expensive compared to what? Like what is it expensive again? Like if you're going to go out and spend $5,000 on a Prada bag, or you're going to go out and spend $5,000 on some rims for your car, like, is that value?
You know what I honestly look at? I look at the 10-year curve, the 10-year learning curve it took me to learn what I'm putting in a course that someone could probably digest if they really wanted to in a month.
It's value.
The opportunity cost on that and what I've learned in that time frame. Like in that 10-year window, man, I built like a $10 million plus property portfolio. And then everything I've learned since then and refined since then, that's what you guys are learning, $30 million plus property portfolio. Yeah. So, mate, it is what it is. People, they can pay it, they can't pay it. It's, in my opinion, it is extremely fairly priced for the quality of what is within it.
Okay.
And yeah, man, it's going to be up there. You got your little sprint if you want to take advantage of the little 20% discount, and a great little Christmas present if you want to give it to your wife or your partner or for yourself or whatever.
All right. Well, mate, I've really enjoyed it. You've got me hooked. You got me hooked.
I'll send you the discount
code.
The
first thing I'm going to send you back is I probably could have done this better with some of my notes. You haven't engaged me the whole process, but I'll give you a detailed summary and action points for the next iteration of your course.
Okay. The level 1 primary school of property. where making mistakes is part of life.
Yes. I've done a few of those, folks. I've done a few of those. But, mate, in all seriousness, well done. I know you've put in a lot of effort. I know there's been a significant amount of time, and I am genuinely excited as someone who has learned a lot from you. I can't wait to really dive into these. I can't. I'm super excited.
I appreciate it, man. I'm super excited as well. Like, I've been wanting to do this for quite a while now. Man, I think there's a lot of great stuff. Even people that literally have been in the like, even clients, man, they're on the books all the time, and like they love talking. I got no one else to talk about with this sort of thing. And realistically, man, it's just like it's being able for people to like consume as much as they kind of can on that front as well, and really start to learn and understand it. And man, I think it's mad. Like, I kind of look at it as like my little bit of Scouting Australia podcast obviously is my genuine bit of giving back. This is the next level, man, of like, property's been extremely good to me. Yeah, it comes, obviously the poddy is free. This comes at a little bit of a cost, but it's just like my way of like literally giving back so much information within this. It's not funny. So yeah, man. I don't know if I said this at the start, but I would have spent over $100,000 in education in my life on property. This, in my opinion, is picking this apart in the best, most condensed version of all the best content that actually works, not just all this fluff about, yes, this is the hardest strategy in the world to try and emulate. This is not that. This is how to properly, retire yourself on property and build this thing out properly. So yeah, man, I'm super excited about this thing coming to market.
Well done, Sammy. Well done.
Jimmy, thank you very much, mate. Any final words? Any final quotes?
Well, the words from the wizard. Get out there, get it, folks. Get on top of this, because we're always talking about your circle of influence and the people that you are surrounding yourself with to get the information to make better decisions. Sammy's put it basically on a silver platter for you to break it down. So I'd highly recommend for people to invest. I remember one mentor said, the first thing whenever you want to invest, before you invest in property, before you invest in shares, before you invest in, you got to invest in yourself.
Yeah.
That is where you should be spending the most amount of money.
Yes.
And things like this is at the epicenter of that.
100%.
You do not deserve to get any results in anything in life if you're not prepared to make that investment into yourself and your own education.
Yeah.
So things like this, I love it.
Man, you don't know what you don't know. Right, you do not know what you do not know. So if you're shooting from the hip and you don't understand this, my pinball machine analogy before, it is literally how it is. If you don't know what you're doing, you're going to bumble your way thing. You're going to knock a few things over, make a few mistakes. This is essentially trying to iron this stuff out as much as possible. So, mate, thank you very much, as always, for tuning in or for jumping in. Sorry, listeners, thank you very much for tuning in, as always. I hope you took some value out of the episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Obviously, this one is a little bit different from what we would normally talk about. But yeah, guys, get amongst it. I hope you enjoy it. If any of you do jump on and sign on to Sammy Gordon's School of Property, I would love to know what your thoughts are. Feel free to send us some direct messages. There's obviously our email in the show notes.
I was just going to jump in.
Putting up his paddle.
Because I just want to jump in.
Yes.
I want to hear from the listeners if they're a little bit disappointed I'm not featuring more in the School of Property. Just want to get a pulse check of our audience.
Or if you're extremely excited that you can listen to a shitload of content without Jimmy's face in it, also please send it and let us know.
Please let us know.
We'll get a poll.
Mum, if you're out there, Mum, we
will get a poll going in terms of what is in favor. Do they want to see more of Jimmy or less of Jimmy in School of Property?
Please, Mum. Okay.
Listeners, if you enjoyed the app, if there's anyone that you think might take value out of the School of Property, send this on to them. This could be a great little platform for someone to become a more educated investor. If you know anyone else that might take great value even out of the episode and the different things that we've run through as well, please make sure to send it on. If you haven't left us a 5-star review yet and you're loving the poddy, like I know a huge amount of you are, and we love you too, please jump on, leave us that 5-star testimonial, 5-star review and the testimonial. And if you haven't hit the subscribe button yet, guys, please make sure you jump on there, hit the subscribe button, keep us at the top of the charts, keep heaps of people learning, coming into our circle of influence and the way that we do property, which is the way that you do as well if you're tuning into this weekly as well. So once again, guys, thank you very much for tuning in. And until next week, it's another Scouting Australia